SPICEJET will see a change in ownership. I'm going to read out to you what the company has just said to the exchanges. It is said that the board of directors of the company at its meeting held on January 15th have taken on record the proposal of the principal shareholder and promoter, that's Mr. Kalanithi Maran, and Airways Private Limited, that's the promoter company, to transfer the ownership, management and control of the company to Mr. Ajay Singh pursuant to a scheme of reconstruction and revival for the takeover of ownership, management and control of SPICEJET Limited. That's what they've named the scheme, and this scheme will be filed before the competent authority, that's the Ministry of Civil Aviation, Government of India. The board has further directed the company to take further steps to implement and undertake all necessary steps, including make the appropriate application before the Ministry of Civil Aviation, the Government of India, for seeking approval for this scheme. So essentially now SPICEJET goes back into the hands of the man who in fact sold it to Kalanithi Maran, doesn't it, Sonia?
Yes, in fact, you know, the Marans have said repeatedly that they don't have the wherewithal to continue pumping in money into SPICEJET. So far, they've pumped in about more than 1,600 crores into the business. Yes. And they had mentioned that now the money that is needed to pay the airport authorities, which is the 200 crores, etc., can't be pumped in by them. So it was, I guess the writing was on the wall, and Ajay Singh was in the fray for a long time. There were so many news reports that they will be, Ajay Singh along with a group of investors will be, pumping in around $250 million. I don't think the quantum is in the press release.
No, the press release has absolutely not one financial number. But since we were talking about it, Anuj, Archana from the reporting team has just sent us a reminder that Maran bought it at 48 rupees a share.
Yes.
And it's currently 18
rupees.
So, it'd be interesting to see how this deal is structured, because actually, will Maran stomach a $30 loss per share?
Maran had bought that majority stake from the promoter Bhupendra Kansagra, and Ajay Singh had actually launched SPICEJET with the Kansagra family.
Yeah,
so that's the whole history or the background
backstory to this.
Yeah.
I think Ajay's already been involved in a deep way in building this reconstruction plan, so to speak. So this shouldn't come as a big surprise. He's unlikely to take helm at the airline without having considerable ownership, one would think. And, I think the Marans just got tired of being in aviation anyways, because it didn't really give them what they were hoping to do with it in any fashion.
I think Ajay Singh already has about, he has a personal stake in the airline of around 4.5% or so. I'm not exactly sure of the amount, but there was always talk that investors have been injecting money into the airline to finance the day-to-day operations, and now finally the entire ownership has been transferred. Minka, like I said, the writing was on the wall, because the immediate cash requirement for survival of SPICEJET is 1,400 crores.
Indeed.
And the Marans don't have the capacity to pay that.
Also, Menika, it'll be interesting to know what was the enterprise value when it was first sold, and what's the enterprise value now, because while the stock price is 18 versus 48, we also have to take a look at the debt angle, and obviously I think Ajay Singh would also take on board the kind of debt that SPICEJET is sitting on right now.
Yeah, and the stock price would in some sense also adjust to the kind of expanded debt as well, right? So to that extent, we have an expert voice coming in, Kanu Gohen, former Director General Civil Aviation. Mr. Gohen, thank you very much for joining us. What do you make of the fact that there will now be a new set of owners at SPICEJET?
Well, Mr. Ajay, if I'm not mistaken, who was the co-founder of SPICEJET.
Yes, that's right, sir. He was the man responsible for launching the airline.
And now that he has come back to the scene, and I know he's a professional who knows the business of aviation. So now, as he's coming back to the scene and he's investing his own money here, maybe he'll be able to revive SPICEJET and see that it starts flying again.
Okay. Mr. Gohen, what do you think would be the fate of SPICEJET from here on? Because, of course, Ajay Singh is the man who started the airline, and he knows the business well. But SPICEJET has lost considerable amount of market share in the last, 2 to 3 months. There's a loss of confidence as well. How long do you think it could take for SPICEJET to get back to that, market-leading position it had of around 20% market share or so?
I understand your point. But once the airline starts flying again, and once the new owner, that is Mr. Ajay Singh and group, if they can take care of the debts already incurred by SPICEJET, if not in the wholesale, but in partial basis, on installment basis. Maybe once the airline starts flying and there's a lot of demand now for traveling, of course we are going into the lean months of traffic, starting from January or February till April. But that will give them ample time to set up their shop properly and manage the things properly, and again it will come back. The credibility will come back.
Mr. Goyal, what are the steps?
Low-cost carrier.
What are the steps that this deal will have to go through with regards to all the approvals at the DGCA for this to become a reality? Can you just talk us through what the regulatory requirements might be?
First of all, the ownership change. So they have to go to the company affairs and get all this ownership problem sorted out. Now, as far as I know, SpiceJet has not lost its approval. They have only suspended their flight, and their flights have been cancelled. So they have to approach the DGCA for getting back their schedules approved, and that's it. They will fly. They have to also satisfy the DGCA that they have the infrastructure, both in manpower and in other aspects of carrying out their airline business.
Okay, we also have another expert aviation voice coming in, Saroj Datta. Mr. Datta, this was inevitable and probably the best option now for SpiceJet at this point in time?
Well, without knowing very much more details, it's difficult to say whether this is the only option available or not. But suppose this is the only way they could survive as an organization.
Okay. Mr. Datta, good evening. There are actually no financial details that have been given in the press release. All we know is that the ownership, management and control will be transferred to Ajay Singh. But we all know that, for SpiceJet to run, there is an immediate infusion of 2,000 crores that's required. Do you think Ajay Singh, along with a consortium of investors, will have the wherewithal and will be able to cough up this money?
Well, I wouldn't know the details of the background, I guessing, and where the funding is coming from. But if that is the requirement, I presume some funds adequate funds have been brought in. But details are, unless there's details are announced, if the press release has given some details, we'll have to see what has been said in those.
No, in fact, there are no details, Mr. Datta. But, just to the point that Sonia has raised, and I don't think that Ajay Singh would not be informed of the kind of money this airline needs to revive itself. And therefore, if he's coming in with big money. Otherwise, coming in, it makes no sense at this point in time at all, right? The only way you're going to be able to revive this is with a large capital infusion into the airline so that it can get back to the skies.
Exactly.
Yeah. Do you have an idea, Mr. Datta, on the various steps that this deal will have to go through before it can become a reality? I'm just trying to understand what the various regulatory requirements, etc. will be. So, of course, the one aspect of this being that SpiceJet is a listed stock. They'll have to go through the takeover code and go through all the hoops in that case. And Mr. Goheen, who is the former DGCA, was just telling us that with regards to the DGCA, all SpiceJet will have to do is, once the new ownership comes in place, reapply for its flights to take off.
Yeah, that is right. I mean, I wouldn't know. I mean, to my knowledge, what else is required in terms of DGC or in terms of the regulatory authorities. It's not very clear what else they'll have to go through at this point in time.
Okay, we have one more expert voice joining us, Kapil Kaul, the CEO of South Asia India Subcontinent Center for Asia Pacific Aviation. Kapil, this was the only option for SpiceJet to revive?
Well, they're lucky, actually. This is a blessing in disguise. I was uncertain whether it will finally get translated into an agreement, but it has, and it's positive for SpiceJet. It's very timely. I don't think that there was any future had Ajay Singh not stepped in, and given the conditions, both of the markets, systemic risks that are there, and challenges with SpiceJet. So I think quite a bold decision. It's a high risk, high reward for SpiceJet, and my sense is that I would want to see the details in the agreement. That is there any exit costs for the existing promoters, I mean, I would think that Ajay Singh is not going to take this company without any large one-time sort of exit costs by the promoters. So we'll have to see what.
You know, that's exactly what I was talking about. The Marans bought in at about 48 rupees a share. You know, I'm wondering if they have the stomach to sell at 18. So I'm just curious to know how this deal will be structured.
So my own sense is that there has to be something that the Marans will have to bring in to stabilize the operation. What we have to see whether what till now will return back to him at some point of time later. What is the structure of that arrangement? But I'd be surprised if the entire transfer has happened without the existing promoters having to pay what I call an exit cost. And I don't see how Ajay Singh would absorb the company at this stage without taking over, without the Maran family paying an exit cost. So
No,
we'll
so when you say paying an exit cost, can you sort of elaborate a little bit more on that?
In the sense that the company requires a lot of money. Every day the company is losing. So by the time the promoters get hold of the company, which is going to take some time, their losses would grow. So my sense is that the promoters' liability, which is maybe closer to a couple of thousand crores, if they are exiting, I would think that they would exit at some cost, pay something for their exit. So my sense is that it's not going to be I transfer the ownership and that my responsibility is over. I don't see this deal like that. So, but as I said, if we have to see.
It's interesting you say that, though. As a listed stock, there will be limitations on what the price can be because they would have to go by what the takeover code says. So, I don't think they will have too much liberty with regards to the actual pricing of the shares of SpiceJet itself, unless the promoters absorb some other loans, etc., and find another way of being able to make it easier for Ajay to come in.
That's the detail that one needs to know, because my sense is that it will not come, just an exit and the responsibility is over. How that gets structured is a second stage, whether they take responsibility of some of the debts that they have or do some other transaction. I know it's a listed company, so it will have challenges. I don't see a deal coming to help shares. It has to have much more to it. So one has to wait for the detail, and I'm sure they will tell the BSE soon that this structure of the
I think we're having some trouble with Kapil. I think we're having some trouble with your line. Now can you hear us?
Okay. The second thing will be to get the fund. The third is
we might have to reconnect a couple at this point in time because we are unable to hear the rest of his response. But you were running through some numbers, Sonia. You said 2,000 crores is what he will need to bring in as fresh capital. This will have to be over and above what he pays to acquire the Maran's shareholding, right?
Also, over and above the accumulated losses that, the company is in any case sitting on. It's sitting on accumulated losses of around 2,950 crores. The total debt stands at around 1,500 crores or so. So there's a huge, huge liability that
that's almost
will have to take on
over
board.
4,000 crores anyways, right?
Yeah.
And then the money to be paid. So that's the hole to fill, so to speak.
So
and there's, of course, then a price to be paid to buy out the Marans in some fashion.
Exactly. Since we don't know any numbers, one thing is that there's certainty of capitalization now. That was the big question mark. Where will SpiceJet get the capitalization from?
I think that question just mutates to where will Ajay Singh get the money from. I'm sure he's lined it up before he would do something like this. Yeah. But it'd be interesting to know where he's getting the money.
I would also be interested to know, because SpiceJet is a company that was doing very well in the market. It was having very good market share. Yes. The market share, of course, slipped in the last couple of months. The load factors have been very high. So now, from an investor point of view, from a stock market investor point of view, once the money comes in, then all the problems will be solved.
Indeed. One more point. I think from stock market point of view, this is going to be interesting because so far it was only Jet Airways. And when we were discussing this stock some time back, that finally it is getting into an environment where you're making money, and even Air India made money, for Christ's sake, even though it was just for a month. But
thanks to the crude gods.
Thanks, So ATF prices are down so much and are likely to go down even further.
Yeah, I know. So maybe this is the best time that Ajay could come back into the company, if one was to say that. Mr. Datta, would you say that there will be possibly no better time for a promoter entry into aviation than we're currently witnessing, thanks to what's gone on with crude prices.
Yes, I think that is probably true, because it's a good time to, look at air price shares being low, and good time to grab market shares. And the airlines have already started charging lower prices. So there is an opportunity to grab market shares and probably acquire in good market share, attract market shares from other carriers. But I'm not so sure as to whether airlines, a new airline, I would suggest that SpiceJet under new management will still be looked at as a new airline.
Right.
Not a stable airline as yet.
All right, Mr. Datta, we leave it at that. Thank you for joining us and giving us your view.